All
All
right.
right.
What's up, man? How you doing?
All right, man. How you doing, man? Back for another session with the people.
Another session with the people, gents, making sense.
You got the
Look,
World Cup mania going on, man, so
we got a lot of news going on, really. A whole lot. So let's get to it. We got our main point today, though. The main thing we're going to concentrate on today is the case in Texas, the Carmela Anthony case. And we kind of looking at it from a standpoint, is it justice, grief, and the weight of a verdict? How it going to affect the community, how it going to affect families, and everything else. So we're going to get right to it, okay? What's good, family? Welcome back to another episode of Gents Making Sense, where we break down the stories shaping our community, our culture, and our conversation. I'm Marvin.
and I'm Suleiman, and today we're stepping into a case that's been heavy on a lot of people's minds, the Carmelo Anthony case out of Frisco, Texas.
A case that isn't just about about what happened on a track field, but about how we see young black men, how we define justice, and how a courtroom becomes a mirror for everything we don't want to admit about America.
This one's layered, emotional, complicated, and necessary.
All right, let's get right to it. Let's start with the facts. In April 2025, at a high school track meet in Frisco, Texas, 17-year-old Austin Metcalf was stabbed and killed. The person who stabbed him was 19-year-old Carmela Anthony. Not the basketball player, but Carmela Anthony. A black teen, no prior violent record, no history of trouble.
Carmelo admitted to the stabbing. The question in the trial wasn't, did he do it? It was why and how should he be punished?
The defense argued self-defense. The prosecution said it was murder, plain and simple. And after deliberation for about 3 hours, y'all, somebody's life, 3 hours, the jury convicted him of murder and sentenced him to 35 years in prison.
35 years for a teenager. That number hit people hard on both sides.
Yeah, we're gonna get into the numbers on 35, but why 35? What do you think about it before we get into the why?
Well, I mean, a couple of things, and I'll say this throughout this segment, man. First of all, the case was rigged and staged from the very beginning. I asked anybody in this country, not just white folks, but anybody in this country of any race or color, to tell me that you're going to feel like you got a fair opportunity or a fair court case when every jury that is judging you is white and does not look like you. I would challenge any white person in the United States to say that they would want to be tried by a jury of 12 black people and think that you got a fair case.
That's a good point. I would like to see that.
Right.
Ve-
Like I
I, I
said,
don't I don't think I've ever seen it. Go ahead.
and you're not going to see it. But this is what I've been saying for 3 years on this podcast, is that there is an expectation that black people in the United States should have violence committed against them, whether that's verbal or physical, and you're supposed to not do anything. But you got Kyle Winnie, the Kyle, I can't think of his last name, Rittingham or something like that.
Rittenhouse.
Rittinghouse that comes across state lines with a AR-15 and kills someone, and he gets set free.
Yeah.
This kid was at a track meet and he got attacked. There's no disputing that. There was witnesses that said there was a argument and a physical confrontation.
Yeah.
But he does not get to protect himself, according to the jury in Frisco.
Yeah.
So
I think the facts that I heard was, there was a confrontation and the young man that died pushed that young man first. That led to him going into his backpack and stabbing him.
sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I heard.
just to some comparisons. You get a guy in New York City on a subway who chokes a guy out. He gets off. right? We've seen multiple law enforcement officers abuse citizens in this country and they get off. This young kid is in a tent and he gets attacked, but he doesn't have the right to defend himself. He's supposed to walk away. He's supposed to get up and allow someone to abuse him, and then a jury convicts him. It's our justice system. This is a justice system that's been in existence in this country forever. It's not fair. It is not the same. Justice is not the same for young African American boys as it is to white or anybody else in this country. It's different.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
judges are in the pockets, and the prosecution's in the pocket. You know, if you don't have the funds or the right attorney, you get convicted and you get 35 years as a 19-year-old.
Yeah. Gotcha. Going into segment 2, why 35 years? So let's break down why the jury likely handed down that number. And this is likely. We're just using some stats from Texas and putting them together and trying to figure out why they came up with that number. First, the sentencing range for murder in Texas is 5 to 99 or life. So they chose 5 to 99. They took life off the table. The jury also had the option to consider sudden passion, which would have dropped the range from 2 to 20 years, from 5 to 99 to 2 to 20 years. Big drop, big drop. Go ahead.
But they rejected sudden passion. That tells you that they didn't see this as a heat of the moment panic. They saw this as intent. They saw responsibility. How does that happen? This guy, how does that happen? I mean, he wasn't at home and said, I'm gonna go and, unalive this guy. It was
Yeah.
it was sudden passion. They got in a fight. He pulled out a knife, which by the way, everybody in Texas carries a knife. So he wasn't doing anything that was unusual. It wasn't on school property. This was an off property, off school event. So
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
carrying a legal weapon, which in Texas, everybody carries a weapon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he got attacked and he responded in kind. So they had never had any intention on convicting this kid of anything other than what they gave. The
Mm-hmm.
message was, we're going to put you in jail, take your life away from you, essentially kill your DNA where your DNA can't make it to the next generation. And the jury did exactly what everybody that looks like us felt was going to happen.
Yep. Exactly. So then you add the emotional weight. Austin's father talked about pure, unfiltered rage. His mother said she'd been sentenced to a life without her son. Those words don't just float in the air, they land, they shape the room.
Sure. And Carmelo didn't testify in his own punishment phase. His remorse came through his mother, not his own voice. That matters to jurors. They want to see remorse, they want to feel it. Well, here's what I'll say about that. We are always the ones that are supposed to stand up and cry and show remorse. What is the remorse that he should have to show? He said the guy attacked him. Now, whether that's accurate or not, I wasn't on the jury. I didn't sit in there and listen to what was going on. But he said the guy attacked him. Why do you have to show remorse for defending yourself? If somebody walks up to me on the street and tries to hurt me, and I respond and I hurt them, I'm supposed to have remorse? Why is that the case? Why do we always have to show remorse? The question should be, tell people to stop putting their hands on folks. That's the response. We should use this as an example and say, a young man lost his life and a young man lost his life in jail because they made emotional decisions. Both of them made emotional decisions. Not just Carmelo, the other gentleman did as well. That's the lesson that we should be teaching our young folks in the country is don't put your hands on people. You can solve issues by discussion as opposed to physically touching somebody. But instead, it's like, oh, well, let's talk about Carmelo. Let's find everything that we can he's ever done in his life, and let's say this is why he did what he did. And it's just not the case.
Yeah. The problem was they couldn't find nothing on the young man.
Right.
Yeah. So 35 years become a kind of middle high compromise, not the minimum, not life, but a statement. This was serious and someone must pay for it. So they made a statement from it. And, you know, I you know, I don't know. I have a whole lot of different feelings about it. This someone must pay. I'm gonna tell you the whole thing that I heard from beginning to end. First of all, Carmelo was invited, from what I heard, he was invited in the tent by a young lady that he was talking to. And when these gentlemen came back, they saw him in the tent. And the question was, why are you in our tent? Get out of the tent. So it ensued, the argument ensued for 5, 10 minutes. They said it could have went on for 15 minutes. So it got real heated, and that's when the gentleman that lost his life pushed Carmela. And in that sudden passion that they had an opportunity to bring out there, Carmela reached in his bag and stabbed him. They said this Carmelo ran away from the tent, and they found him under the bleachers or near the bleachers in a ball, crying because he was so mentally distraught. And it was clear that the intention would. I think it was clear from the information that I have that the intention wasn't to kill the young man. The intention was to get these people off of him because he didn't know what was going on. That's my take on it from everything that I heard. You know.
No, I think you're right. But again, I'll go back to what I've always said is that it depends on who the kid is. It depends on who the person is that committed the crime, on how it's presented to the country.
Yeah. Let's go on to segment 3, Texas sentencing pattern for teen homicide.
Yeah, now let's zoom out because Texas has a very specific way of handling teen homicide.
Texas is one of the states most willing to try teens as adults, especially in violent cases. And when you look at the pattern, sentences for teen convicted of murder often fall between 20 and 40 years.
35 years. Harsh? Yes, but not unusual for Texas. And again, I'll take a second just to elaborate a little bit. The adults in Texas, the Supreme Court in Texas, the prosecution in Texas, the politicians that make laws in Texas. This is on you. That young man is not alive today because of you guys. When you make laws that allow people to carry deadly weapons around the entire state without any training, any age limit, any determination on their mental capacity, this is what you get. This is what you get. If you don't have the tools, then this man doesn't lose his life, and the other young man doesn't go to jail for 35 years. When we have to drive a car, we make our 16-year-olds go to months of training to learn how to drive a vehicle. Because why? Because we know that vehicles are dangerous. We know that vehicles can hurt people. So we make them get educated. We make them carry a license around that says, I can see, I have the minimum qualifications to drive this tool that can hurt people. But weapons, we don't think that in Texas. Anybody can walk around with a gun. Anybody can go buy a gun same day in Texas. People walk around with knives. Everybody, my brother lives in Houston. Everybody in Texas carries a knife, and more than likely, everybody in Texas has some type of weapon on them. And then you're surprised when a teenager who is probably not mentally mature enough goes and does something like this. And then you blame the teenager. So this murder, this death is on them. They should be looking at themselves about the laws that we have, in place. And as I said earlier, 35 years. This kid is 19 years old. 35 years. His DNA stops. His family's DNA, their genes don't go further anymore. He's not having any children. That means his mother and his father will no longer have their DNA on this earth because of this. So just wanted to put that out there.
There you go. Of course. And that's still the sort of slavery that we have today. Prisons is a form of slavery. That's been said on many occasions. And once the jury rejected sudden passion, they were back in that 5 to 99 years. So if they had took sudden passion, that's not a far-reaching thing. You don't have to reach very far to see sudden passion in this instant. It ain't like it's totally off the books, but they rejected it like it was totally off the book. Given the public nature of the killing, the age of the victim, and the emotional testimony, 35 years fits the Texas pattern of accountability first, rehabilitation second. That's some
Right, rehabilitation in
that's some
Texas, stop it.
stupid shit, man.
Yeah, come on. Come on. We know exactly what this was about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean,
Account
and then and not to mention that we're in Frisco, Texas. So
yeah,
anybody knows the history of Frisco, Texas, and what Frisco, Texas is today. I'm not surprised at all, at all.
accountability first, rehabilitation second. There will be no rehabilitation. We very rarely see rehabilitation in the American prison system. Very
Yeah.
rarely, you
Yep.
know. On to the next segment. How the defense lawyer performed and why Carmela didn't testify. This is something that was on everybody's mind here. So
Right.
go ahead.
Before we get into racial dynamics, we need to talk about the defense. Awful. Because a lot of people online were asking, did his lawyer fail him? Yes. Why didn't they let him speak for themselves? You're not under any obligation to testify. And most
Yeah.
defense attorneys, particularly when you're talking about capital, you know, murder cases, they will not
Mhm.
testify because, more than likely most people don't perform when they're testifying very well. And they're going to use a lot of things against you that, most people who are testifying don't know how to defend against. So
You're right.
you can't use that against him. There are people in this country to go to court every single day and they don't testify. So,
Exactly. Says let's break that down then from what you just said and everything. We'll talk about that. From what we know, the defense attorney did what most defensive lawyers, just like you said, do in high stakes murder trials. They focus on self defense, and when the jury rejected that, they pivot to sudden passion, the only legal path to a lower sentence.
and honestly, that's a reasonable strategy. If sudden passion lands, the sentencing range drops from 5 to 99 years to 2 to 20 years. That's a massive difference.
But here's the challenge. The prosecution framed the stabbing as intentional, deliberate, and unnecessary. They painted a picture of a young man who made a choice, not a mistake. And once the jury bought that framing, sudden passion was dead in the water.
Now, let's talk about the big question. Why didn't Carmelo Anthony testify during sentencing?
This is important. People assume that if you don't speak, you don't care. But in legal world, putting a defendant on the stand is one of the riskiest moves a lawyer can make. Here's why the defense likely held him back. Cross-examination can destroy you. Prosecution can bring up inconsistencies, past statements, or emotional triggers. A team under pressure can look nervous or confused, and juries misread that a guilt or coldness. If the defendant shows too much emotion, it looks manipulated. Too little, it looks heartless. There's almost no winning.
There's no one. In my opinion, I'm not a defense attorney, but I would have, to me, I thought they should have focused more on the fact that this guy is a track star. He's 160 pounds compared to the football player who's 220 pounds. What's he supposed to do? Is he supposed to stand there and take a beating? Stand there and take somebody berating him? Potentially talking about hurting him? That's what I would have focused on, is that 160 pounds, 220 pounds. He defended himself, but they didn't. Probably why I'm sitting here on this podcast and I'm not an attorney. And remember, Carmelo had already admitted to the stat. Right. He didn't lie. He didn't say I didn't do it. He didn't try to run out of state. He didn't have his family flying out of the country like a lot of people in this country do when they commit a crime. He didn't do
Right.
that. He admitted to what
Yeah.
he did. Anything he said could have been twisted into lack of remorse or minimizing responsibility. So, in my opinion, I think the defense attorney did the right thing by not putting him on stand. I don't think
Mhm.
that their defense was very good, but I do agree with that choice.
Yeah, and like I said, his defense attorney did what most lawyers do. They let family members speak for him. His
Mhm.
mother testified that he was very sorry, that he was remorseful, that he wasn't a monster.
Yeah, but here's the hard truth. Jurors want to hear remorse from the defendant's own mouth. Even though silence is a legal right, emotionally, it can land as distance. And I get that. I literally forget that. But you have to understand again, and I'll say this until, until I'm no longer on this earth, is the prosecution eliminated people who shared his reflection, people who would understand what he was going through, people who would have a little bit more grace thinking about him. They knew that, which is why they removed all the black jurors. And then they put white jurors on there, people who don't have the same experience, people who are going to look at this differently. Prosecution knew exactly what it did. They knew exactly what they were doing. And prosecutors across the country do this on a daily basis and then turn around and say we have a fair justice system. No, we don't. He wasn't judged by his peers. He wasn't. He was judged by people who don't live his life, who don't live his parents' life. He was judged by people who were strangers to him, which is why
Mhm.
you got the outcome that you normally this case brought.
Exactly. So the defense wasn't incompetent, they were navigating a minefield. But the combination of rejected self-defense claim, rejected sudden passion claim, and a silent defendant created a sentencing environment where the jury leaned toward a heavier number. Man,
No,
I
I
mean,
know, man.
that is a minefield, and it just wouldn't it just didn't line up right for him. The jury, like you said, seemed to have already made up their mind from the beginning because they rejected all these points right here, systematically reject them all, and then take only 3 hours to deliberate. And I'm quite sure it didn't take them 3 hours to deliberate. They just want to make it look pretty good, you know?
Look,
I'm quite sure
they
of
already
that.
decided what they do. And again, I mean, this happens all across this country all the time. Now, I've sat on the jury before, and I can tell you the majority of people that were on my jury were not interested. They were not interested in looking at seriously digging into what was going on. We had a person's life on the line here, and some people are not even willing to put in an hour or 2 or 3 hours to look at the evidence and ensure that we are, to the best of our ability, giving this person the best chance they get.
Mhm.
But
This is where the case get deeper because you can't talk about this case honestly without talking about race. Carmela is black, Austin was white, and the jury, not a single black juror.
yeah, and I'll hit on it again. They eliminated all the black jurors. Explain that to me. I mean, I want somebody literally to explain that to me. Other than that it's illegal, and it is legal in this country to strike a certain amount of jurors, depending on what state you live in.
Mhm.
And the prosecution did that, but you can't justify to me why you would do that if you're trying, or unless you're trying to say that because I'm black, I am unable to look at a black juror, I'm a black defendant, and judge accordingly.
Yeah,
Now, nobody in that courtroom said the word race. The lawyers didn't argue it, the judge didn't mention it, but outside the courtroom, online, in the community, race was everywhere.
because in America, when a black teen kills a white teen, the system doesn't operate in a vacuum. There's history in the room. There's bias in the room, not always intentionally, but real. There's the long shadow of justice system that has consistently punished black defendants more harshly, especially when the victim is white.
And even if nobody says it out loud, those dynamics shape how a community sees guilt, danger, remorse, and redemption.
This isn't about calling the jury racist. It's about acknowledging the water we're all swimming in. A system built on inequity produces outcomes shaped by inequity, even when everyone thinks they're being fair.
And again, let me follow up with that. That's a great point there. is I don't know a single person on that jury. I can't say what they were thinking. But we know that when you have equity on a jury, that you bring different perspectives to the table. There was no one in that jury room that can argue and say, this is what Carmelo was going through. This is what he was thinking. I'm not saying that there shouldn't have been a punishment. Somebody lost their life. There should absolutely be a punishment for that.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is,
yeah, make that abundantly clear for our listeners that we're not saying that this young man shouldn't have been punished.
no, not at all. I mean, somebody lost their life. So there needs to be some type of punishment or acknowledgement that that young man is no longer going to be on this earth or be around his family. But there needed to be somebody on that jury that can look at the other jurors and say, consider this. That's what jury selection is supposed to be about. That's what that's what equity is about. Diversity, having people with different opinions, different lifestyles, different experiences to come to a more equitable decision. And I think that the state of Texas and that prosecutor's office took that away from Carmela Anthony and the citizens of the state of Texas.
Yeah. So let's move on. By this is only speculation, and the only reason we're going to talk about it because we want to put all the facts out there as we see them and as been reported by reputable news agencies and stuff. Did the judge know the victim's family? That's been out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I've read some of that. And I don't know. So again, we don't want to speculate. But I will say this: if that is the case, and that judge did not recuse himself, and that prosecutor did not request that judge recuse himself, then that this young man needs to get another trial, and he needs to push that forward on appeal. But again, I've always said, and and I've been around the world. Our justice system is not fair,
Mhm.
and it's not fair to anyone. There's no checks and balances. Whether or not that judge recuses himself is up to him. So you got a person who may have some conflict of interest there who has to make a decision on whether he recuses himself. So I don't know if it's accurate, but whoever takes up the appeal for this young man should look into that and ensure that, it wasn't rigged like I think it was, but that it wasn't rigged with the relationship between the people who are prosecuting him and the family of the victim.
I'll say this. Let's be clear. There's no evidence that no reporting, no motions, no filings, nothing that said that this was the case. If something like that existed, it would have been a major legal issue. So, as far as public record shows, the judge was simply the judge.
Exactly.
And
Until we hear differently.
yeah, and I'll just say that the young man has already filed for appeal and everything. So, yeah. So, segment 7, two families, two futures. At the end of the day, two families lost their futures that day, one to death and one to prison.
And the jury's 35-year sentence sits right in the middle of that pain, shaped by law, shaped by emotion, shaped by a system that has never been neutral.
This case forces us to ask the hard questions. What does justice look like when kids hurt kids? How do you balance accountability with possibility of growth? And how do we confront the racial currents that run beneath our legal system, even when nobody names them out loud?
Because if we don't ask these questions, we're not looking in the mirror at all.
Yep, I would say the same. This case hits kind of hard for a lot of people because, once again, you have to balance accountability. Somebody lost their life with with rehabilitation. This is a young man that got the opportunity ahead of himself to make something out of himself. So, and that's what this case is basically about. I uh, I think I've said everything I could say about this case because it's been a heavy case for me because I hate to see the as a events coordinator, we have track meets all the time. I see the helter skelter that goes on with track meets. Tents are a big thing with track meets. We have to require that our spectators don't put tents in certain places. And when we do, if somebody put their tent in front of somebody else's tent, it's a whole argument. We have to have police on site because these people will fight over these tents, man. It's unbelievable. So I see it firsthand what can happen at events like this because I see it firsthand. We have to regulate where tents are and who can have tents up and when they can have tents up and everything, you know? So, yeah.
And again, that's something that you consider from a defense standpoint.
Mhm.
Why not bring somebody in to talk about what the environment at a track meet? What causes arguments? Or why you have to have law enforcement there? That's the type of stuff that the jury needs to hear. Is that this wasn't a random act of him just walking into a tent. Kids go to different tents all the time. Some kids like it, some kids don't. That's the type of stuff that you talk about from the defense perspective so that the jury gets the full picture.
Mhm.
So, yeah, go
Yep.
ahead.
That's basically it. That's basically what I want to say. I looked at Texas law and I looked at some other cases that were close to this. Yeah, look like it. And a lot of times when they doing these sentences thing, these are some nationally in Texas, research has repeatedly found that black defendants are more likely to be perceived as dangerous and less remorseful. Cross-racial cases, black defendants, white victims often draw harsher public and prosecutorial scrutiny. Jury pools that underrepresent black residents can amplify those dynamics and everything. All things that we've said, these are facts on the case and everything. So,
I mean, we know that if this was a different case where you had a young white teenager who killed a young black teenager,
mhm,
every media outlet in the world will be finding everything to justify why he did it. He's got mental issues. He's been seeing a psychiatrist. Oh, his family had a really bad life. His parents are divorced. He was abused. Every excuse in the book would have been used in order to justify this young man's actions. We know there would have been a different outcome had it been the other way around. But
yeah,
I'll use that as an example, and you've heard me say this on here many times before. Is to my brothers and sisters, to my brothers' fathers and mothers, you need to arm yourselves. You need to teach your children how to arm themselves because this is not going to stop. Because people think out there that they should be able to abuse you and that you should accept it. If anything, this should be a lesson to people out there to say that there are African Americans in this country, a lot of us, that are armed and are willing to use our weapons to defend ourselves. So you should think twice about putting your hands on somebody. That's the lesson of this story, in my opinion, is what we should walk away with, is that you need to protect yourself because law enforcement's not going to do it. The justice system will not do it. You are the only person that's going to be able to to protect yourself. So
gotcha,
go and arm yourselves, learn how to use your weapons, maintain your mental capacity, but protect yourselves. That's what I'll say to our people out there. Because the
gotcha,
justice system is not our friend in most places across this country.
gotcha. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah. So we're gonna move right along to on another note. Do you have one for this week, Mr. Suleiman?
Yeah, I'm sure you're gonna do the same thing, but I just laugh at the the Iranian war and this incompetent administration and the so-called MOU that they have been pushing around. I mean, just the basics out of it. No one's really seen the entire thing, but just the basics is coming out. It's laughable. It's laughable. President Obama did this over a decade ago, which was harsher, less money provided, didn't have to kill 120 something children during bombing, and got
before, let me stop you right there. You can go on after this. Let's put that money thing figure there. I think Obama, they stood to gain anywhere from 1.5 to $3 billion. With this deal, they stand to gain, not counting the money they gonna get today when they open the Strait of
straight.
Hormuz, and the money that they gonna start getting for oil, the sale of oil. But they have pledged the United States will guarantee $300 billion to rebuild their country through the other Gulf states and everything. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry. I just needed to put that
Well,
number.
yeah, I mean, that's what they're putting out there that the Gulf
Yeah,
states are going to pay for it. That's a lie. We know that's a lie. It's going to come out of taxpayers' money.
but it's guaranteed
That,
by us. So
yeah, right. It's guaranteed by us, and that's where it's going to come from. But what we lost is prior to this, the Strait wasn't controlled by Iran. Wasn't charging people access fees. It was a free Strait for people who were doing uh, international business to carry their products through the Strait. Now Iran has already said in coordination with God, I forgot the other country that's across the Strait, Oman, $2 million a ship.
how much?
$2 million a ship. You know how many
God,
ships go through that strait
good
on a daily
grief.
basis? $2 million a straight. And the businesses, they're going to pay it because they want to get their resources through the strait to sell it around the world. So not
Phew.
only are you giving them $300 billion, but now you've allowed them to now be gatekeepers for the strait for people to take business through there. So it was a complete loss. And what did we accomplish? What
That's
we've essentially
great.
done is created a new generation of people who are going to want to hurt, you know, people when they get older. I mean, you've created potential terrorists in the country because you killed their mothers, you killed their fathers, you killed their brothers and sisters. They're not going to forget about that. Iran is still existing. They're not going anywhere. We depleted our military arsenal, which, by the way, taxpayers, we have to pay to have that rebuilt, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah,
You
for
know?
sure.
So right, so that means contractors are going to get billions of dollars to rebuild our arsenal because this president and his incompetent administration decided they wanted to go and start a war with a country that has been in existence for thousands of years.
And he had the nerve to say that they got a better regime now. And the regime is led by the son of the man that they killed. I
Exactly,
didn't
that's my point. I mean, you think this man's gonna come to the table now and look at United States like you're an equal partner? I mean, you killed his father.
exactly. And
I
what
mean,
I've been and what I've been from news reports and what I've heard is that these guys that are in charge now were on the sideline because they were so much radical than the ones that were in power.
the
Yeah,
world is looking at us and laughing.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
President Obama had all of our allies, all our European allies, all of our, you had the Chinese, you had
Chinese
the
and
Russians.
Russian.
Everybody agreed with the plan that he put together. Everybody. He brought a coalition of countries into this, and Iran agreed to do it. But
Mhm.
because Trump feels so inferior to President Obama, he just had to rip it up and come up with his own plan, which is a disaster. And the next president is going to have to deal with this over the next 4 to 5 years because of his administration's incompetence.
Yep.
It's incredible.
Mhm.
It's laughable. I mean, if it wasn't my country, if it wasn't the fact that it's the United States, we would be calling the United States a circus,
Foolery.
right? What do you call it? A circus. If this
Yep,
was another country, every news station in the United States would be calling them buffoons and that it was a circus.
exactly. Full of clowns in a clown car.
Right.
Yep. Okay, so on another note, I like yours. I would have loved to done yours, but you did it so gracefully and so and so good. I'm gonna go to something a little bit more good news. The Barack Obama Presidential Library will open tomorrow.
So
Proud, very proud of it.
is it tomorrow or is it? I thought it was on June. Oh, it is tomorrow. You're right.
It's tomorrow. Tomorrow,
Yes, sir.
yep. I'm so proud of it. I am hoping that my family on June 30th will pay for me to go to Chicago and visit it and
I'm
everything.
going. I'm going this year,
Hear that,
no doubt.
family? Yep, there you go. It's, it's a shiny it's like a shiny palace in a part of Chicago that was forgotten. And if you had an opportunity to hear Michelle Obama and Barack Obama speak about how proud they were of putting it there, they were both visibly emotional about it. Michelle Obama wore a dress with her mother's picture on it so that her mother would be with her today. And she was so thankful that Barack, being the president of the United States for 8 years, had the opportunity to put that library anywhere he wanted to, including Hawaii. And he decided to put it in her where where she was born and her mother and father raised her and where he met her. So she was so proud of that. And he was almost speechless for the first time once because he had never seen the dress that she wore with the picture of her mother on his on it and everything. So it was a very good speech. They were thanking their staff and all the people that helped them make that library happen and everything. And from everything I can see, it's gonna be something very beautiful and stuff. And you gotta remember these presidents get to do whatever they wanna do as far as their legacy with those, libraries. Now
I hear you.
now, Reagan and other people, they did things like put a replica of the Air Force
Replica.
One, yeah, of Air Force One, replicas of other things and everything. This is funny, but y'all don't think bad of me, but I gotta say it. I don't give a rat's ass, really. Donald Trump might not even live to see his library with his old ass self, you know? You know what I'm saying? It just
Uh-huh.
might not happen, you know? And
I'm
I
gonna
don't wanna see a Taj Mahal because that's probably what he will build it, in the image of a Taj Mahal, probably. So, that's gonna be funny.
say this behind you. I mean, first of all,
Yeah,
thank you for bringing that up.
yeah,
I think it's going to be awesome. But I want to speak to our people, people to share our reflection. This is what grace looks like. This
yeah.
is what our people have always done throughout the history of this country, despite all of it, despite all of the obstacles that are put in front of our people. This is what we do. We are very,
Resilient.
no, not classical, but professional. And we make things look nice.
Mhm.
This is what we do. President Obama, first African American president in this country, and he decided to put his library in a place that is constantly disrespected.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that shows who he is as a person. I think that shows who our people are, and he represents us well. And I'm proud to say that I not only voted for him, that I live in the time when he was president and afterwards. So,
And he
well
knew
done, President
exactly what he
Obama.
was doing.
Thank you.
He knew
Yep,
exactly what he was doing when he put it there because he know the economic windfall that that area is gonna have.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, all right, man, another good one, man. I appreciate it. And
Yeah.
once again, what we say, stand tall, speak the truth, and more, and move like your ancestors invested in you.
Yes, sir, man. We'll see everybody next week, man. Enjoy Juneteenth, man. This is our holiday. Don't let people shame you into
Thank
celebrating.
you.
This is our holiday.
Thank you. Thank you. I almost forgot that. Juneteenth, y'all. Peace out. See you the next time, okay?
Yes, sir. See you, brother.